Good evening, let us pray. Heavenly Father, I would like to begin by saying thank you. Thank you for every seed that has been filled here today. For each mind and heart that fills the presence of this room, we say thank you. Only you truly know and see what we are setting out to accomplish here this evening within this environment of empowerment. We have an idea, a vision, hints, and daily instructions. We have talents, abilities, and time to work. However, only you can see in perfect detail the end of every beginning. Every project, every season, every life. Nothing is ever in vain, for even mistakes and missteps are used for good. Help us to listen before speaking. Help us to fully understand. Help us to value and appreciate the ones we are about to meet and interact with this evening. As a new era is upon us, where we are able to break the barriers and reimagine youth leaders and leadership. Father, inspire us to be greater as we build our service and continue to do great work on your behalf and on behalf of the youth and young people of this great nation. Keep us mindful of those who are less fortunate than us and creative in ways to share your love and your presence. Bless us these gifts and fill us with gratitude and love as we celebrate and present in your imperial name, and everyone will say, Amen.
Amen. You may be seated. Honorable Garth Wilkin, Attorney General, Honorable Iseline Phillip, Senator and Junior Minister with responsibility for youth empowerment, social development, gender affairs, aging and disabilities, Mr. Pierre Liber, Director, Department of Youth Empowerment, our panelists, Nikira Nichols, National Carnival Queen, Mrs. Natasha Gray Brooks, Miss Nadia Rollins, Mr. Raphael Rodney, our specially invited guests, Ms. Candice Franklin, representatives of the youth and community groups and organizations, teachers, students, executive and members of the St. Kitts National Youth Parliament Association, listening and viewing audience, the media, good evening. This evening, we are here and gathered for our annual youth forum under the theme, A New Era, Breaking the Barrier, Reimagining Youth Leaders. Now I'll just repeat that theme. A new era, breaking the barrier, reimagining youth leaders. We have a very diverse panel here this evening, and I'm sure they are ready to engage us with their various styles and information that I'm sure will be very rewarding for you guys. And so, without further ado, I want to say welcome, welcome, welcome. Give yourselves a round of applause for being here this evening. We'll move swiftly along with the President's remarks by Mr. Mauriel Knight. Please welcome him, please.
Mr. Master of Ceremonies, permit me with your leave to adopt the protocol that has been ably established, save to recognize the Honorable Attorney General, the Junior Minister, Senator Phillip, Director Pierre Liebert, and other specially invited guests, along with the members of my executive and other members of the St. Kitts National Youth Parliament Association. Fellow young people, it is my honor to address you as we kick off this evening's Leadership Symposium. Today, we gather here not just to hear the stories that have shaped and guided our panelists. We are gathered not only to gain knowledgeable insights that can be applied to our own lives, nor do we gather merely at the invitation of our school, friend, or colleague, but rather we gather because within each of us lies a beacon of inspiration and leadership waiting to be ignited so that we may enter as a people into an era with reimagined leaders. You see, the time has come to rethink the way we view leadership and come to understand the true principles that make us all capable of guiding others and building our team. Over the last few centuries, much has been said and written about leaders and leadership on a whole. There are those who believe that leaders are born, not shaped, nor taught, and those who believe that the hallmark of any leader is integrity. However, one view that guides me that I wish to share with you now is stated by John C. Maxwell, and it says, and I quote, "A leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way," end quote. It is not simply enough to instruct nor to manage, because each leader must be willing to guide, teach, and persevere to see the tasks through, all while ensuring that every team member is empowered to unlock the qualities of leadership embedded within. Before you is a panel of esteemed sons and daughters of the soil who have each demonstrated sound leadership and have given back significantly to their communities and the wider society. And I invite you now to give a round of applause to our panel. I encourage all of you, in particular our students and all prospective leaders within your post, to set an example of integrity, accountability, and influence to those around you. For as Kenneth Blanchard rightly says, the key to successful leadership is influence, not authority. After you have taken in what has been shared today, I encourage all of you to go forth and be the change within your community that hinges upon transformative shifts in our thinking, behavior, and plans. I express on behalf of the entire executive and general membership of SKNYPA immense gratitude for gracing us with your presence today, and I encourage you to make the most of your experience. In closing, I use the words of Steve Maraboli. Today, many will break through the barriers of the past by looking at the blessings of the present. Why not you? End quote. Be that change. Take our nation into this new era of prosperity and greatness, and above all, break the barrier and become a reimagined leader. For young people, our time is now. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Muriel. Young people, our time is indeed now. So we'll jump right into the presentations, and I know that we are very excited. Are we? Yes. Awesome. I like my audience already. And so we'll start off with Miss Nikiwa Nichols, who will be presenting on financial literacy and discipline. So, it's a pleasure. Thank you. Let's welcome her one more time.
Good evening. First, let me adopt the protocol that was already established. And I want to thank the St. Kitts Youth Parliament Association for inviting me here today. I'm always grateful for the opportunity to give back to the development of our youth in whatever way that I can. And, I really appreciate the opportunity. So thank you. So before we get into the nitty-gritty of, the financial stuff and what's not, I want to give you a little backstory about myself and how I became an advocate for financial literacy. So I was roughly around 12 years old. I would have been maybe like in second form, and my mother came to my room and she was like, "Nikira, it's time for you to, fix up your room because somebody's coming to take a look at the house." And I'm in second form, like confused, like, what do you mean somebody coming to take a look at the house? Having absolutely no idea or intricacies of like finance or what a mortgage is. And that experience was really a buyer coming to take a look at my home to the bank. And in my own little bubble, I didn't understand how much she was making at the time. And she was taking care of me, my brother, and her youngest brother, which would have been my uncle. So like many of you, I'm sure grew up in an extended family or in a single parent household. And you might be asking, so how did that happen? You know, everything was fine up until like second farm, you know, like what happened? So like I said, I grew up in an extended family at first, and both my grandparents got ill. And that took a financial burden on the entire family. So me nicing up my bedroom, that was, you know, uh, what would I say, repercussions of, you know, when sometimes people take ill or health situations happen and out of our control, circumstances often happen out of our control. And to be honest, I was embarrassed. Embarrassed to say that, you know, the bank took my home. And you know what I said? My family sold it. You know, it just moved. And from there, we moved into a tiny apartment at the back of a yard, one door in, one door out. You remember, fans? One door in, one door out. And at first, I wouldn't invite anybody over because I was too embarrassed to say I live at the back of a yard. But that redirection, like my role model Terry Carell would say, was the best thing that my family needed at the point in time, because believe it or not, I had a much better quality of life in that tiny apartment at the back of a yard in comparison to that humongous 5-bedroom house, because in that tiny apartment, my mother had way more disposable income in comparison to that 5-bedroom house. And I say that to say, that's where my experience comes, but sometimes we stay in positions where we cut our noses to spoil our faces, and we live beyond our means just to, you know, either please people or keep up with appearances. And also, that depleted funds change the livelihood of me, and it happens to many of us. Either it can happen to health, debt, as in, you know, sometimes we borrow too much money, or just a loss of income. You know, we saw it with the pandemic. And like I said, my mother was not able to afford that heavy mortgage and still give me and my brother, you know, life's pleasures of extracurricular activities, whether it was dance, football, cricket, and still live paycheck to paycheck. And that experience was life-changing. And from that moment, it inspired me, it shifted my mindset, and I vowed to prioritize my savings and educate myself on money management so that I can help to mitigate some of the risks that either I experience or help somebody else. So, I want to hear from you a little bit. What do you think is financial literacy, and why do you think it is important? Anybody? Anybody? Give it a shot. Somebody. Anybody? We shy? I think that is a very, very good try. It is a good definition, but I would say it's really having the proper knowledge and skills to effectively and confidently manage your personal financial resources and use the skills that you, whether it be saving, budgeting, knowing about investments, and debt management, how to protect it. That's where insurance comes in, and learning or knowing how to really implement these skills and knowledge successfully. And as he said, the lack of financial literacy could be devastating because it really affects us negatively and prevents us from really living life on our own terms. And believe it or not, money is one of the tools that impacts all of our lives. And one of the biggest things that studies have shown is that it is one of the top causes of stress, one of the top causes of divorce, and it's not only just the lack of knowledge and skills, but also the inability to comfortably talk about money. So my job here today is really to be an advocate for financial literacy and also change the stigma around money. And I keep asking myself, and I know you won't answer me, but I want you to ask yourself, what do you think that you can do to improve financial literacy in our federation? It could be something as simple as, talking to your parents, talking to a friend, your aunt, your uncle, a cousin, a niece, a nephew. And I believe the first step is, next one, is education. I believe the first step is increasing financial literacy through education. Just like, Miss Rollins might, hopefully she agree, just like how family life and physical education is essential in making us more informed and well-rounded individuals, I don't think it should be no different when it comes to money. It is one of the most critical aspects of adulthood. Just like I mentioned, top cause of stress, top cause of divorce is the first thing we encounter when we, leave CFB, we enter into the working world, but yet we have no knowledge or understanding how to manage money. So I think, seeing that is not there, we need to be an advocate for ourselves, and we need to have, plead to the government for them to implement more practical programs such as budgeting, saving, investing, so that we all can make effective financial decisions for not only for us, but the generations to come. And I know it sounds like a bit personal, but they have a significant impact on the nation's economy, because it minimizes wealth inequality and therefore eliminating disparities to capital and stimulating economic growth, which in the end lessens crime. All right? So what do I think is the key? I think the key is a healthy money mindset. Let's go to the next slide. So my beliefs, and I strongly believe that your beliefs also, is what drive your spending habits and how you handle money. And the sooner that you're able to understand, what you value and things like that, what brings you the most happiness. Is it the latest t-shirt? Do you gonna still feel good about it like a month from now? What are your goals or your future goals? I truly believe once you understand that, the process gets easier, because advertisements won't have the same impact on you. You won't care as much about keeping up your appearances with your friends. The new iPhone come out, so you want a new iPhone now. You would have more control over your impulses. Like for me, I grew up in a foodie household, so I absolutely love food. I like trying your food. I like playing games, dining, spending quality time with friends and family over food. Kenny could tell you, when we went in for the show, all I talked about was food. Can't wait to eat food. So to combat my eating out, I include it into my budget. I don't believe in depriving yourself. So I don't deprive myself of the things that I enjoy. I just set limitations. Okay? So I don't believe, maybe because something is expensive, you just can't overdo. So eventually, high school students, you're going to get a salary. SKNYPAs, I know some of you probably are already, in a 9 to 5. Or you might be getting Christmas money, birthday, or maybe money from excelling in school or something like that. But I want you to think about, what do you want your money to do for you in the future? How do you want it to work for you? And the sooner you're able to understand that, you have like a clearer picture of your goals. So SKNYPAs, as leaders, you're going to get a grant. Sometimes you're going to get money for a project, your sponsorship, and it's your responsibility to use that money and ensure that the project is successful without going back to them and asking them for more. Okay? So how do we use that money to the best of our ability when we get that sponsorship money or that grant? We have to think about a budget. So I want you to think about, do I need the most expensive caterer or the expensive decorator? Because many times it's not how much you make, but how much you manage. Because sometimes we see, rich people, but still we see that, they end up in like debt and precarious positions. So if you take anything away from me here today, I want you to think about budgeting, and I strongly believe that that is the key to winning. And there are so many amazing benefits from budgeting, and the first thing that I'm going to talk about is it helps you to stay focused on your goal. So, like I said, the new iPhone 14 just come out. And, we might be thinking, I have $2,000, $3,000 in my bank account right now. Yeah, I could cover the iPhone, that's nothing. But then what you gonna got left? And then you might be thinking about that trip that you and your friends say you wanted to plan to go Dubai. If you buy the iPhone, that trip gone in, right? Or for me, I might be thinking about buying a vehicle or putting a down payment or thinking about a house in the future. A budget allows you to keep your eye on that goal, and it forces you to map out your goals, save your money, and track your progress. So those dreams, that Dubai trip, could become a reality. For me, it might be a car and a house, hopefully eventually in the near future. So of course it's gonna hurt right now that these things might not fit into your budget, but you have to remind yourself that saving up for that, for me, in your house, in your car, gonna be easier, and I could see it in the future, and that's perfectly fine, and it make it easier because you would empty that online shopping cart and you're gonna pass that store because I have that cart in my vision, and that's my goal, and you have a bigger reason why, and a budget makes it more clearer. It also helps you to live within your means. Right now, we walk around, I don't even have it on me. Right now, we walk around with these plastics, credit cards and debit cards, and back then, we didn't have it. But because we didn't, back then, actually, you could visualize it because you have the cash in hand. So when it's depleting, you could actually see it. With a card, you can't really see it that much. You have to, unless you keep going online and checking, or going your mobile banking and checking, you're not gonna really see it. So it makes it harder to visualize with the cards. Apart from the high interest, with the cards, sometimes we overuse and abuse the credit cards, and we don't realize when we are overspending, so we end up drowning in debt. But with a budget, you already set out, this is what I want you to do for me this month, and this is what you're doing for me this month. That's it. So if you stick to that budget, and as leaders, like I said, you might have to compare, can I get a live band or can I get a DJ? Which one can I afford? Which one really fit into my budget? Or can we really have our event at Marriott, or we gotta kind of take it a notch down? And a budget helps you, to think about those things and prevent the overspending. And manage properly, manage your expectations, so you don't plan and then look at your finances. You kind of like do them into, okay, SKNYPAs and leaders of organizations. Budget helps you to be more of an effective leader and plan ahead, as I just mentioned with the examples, and set realistic plans for your events and year so you could be successful, and I think that's a win. The third one, it helps you to prepare for emergencies. Like my story, life is filled with unexpected surprises. Sometimes some are good, sometimes some are bad. Like I said, with the COVID, we got laid off. We didn't expect it. Sometimes we get sick, we go through divorce, death happens, health, and it could lead to some serious financial turmoil, unfortunately. But emergencies just happen, and sometimes they happen in the worst time when you feel like you're already strapped for cash. Like your friend birthday come up and you forget that you got to buy them a new gift, or your phone screen crack, or you need a new laptop charger, so you gotta buy other Mac, and then cause I'm gonna charge you like a lot. But these things happen. That's just life. But your budget should include an emergency funds. Usually we like to think about 3 to 6 months of expenses, but if you have that extra money sitting at the back end, those unexpected expenses, such as a flat tire, won't seem like such a financial burden, because you'll be like, I had this kind of set aside just in case something happened. I'm not saying, go now and dump all your money in an emergency fund. Take it piece, $100 now here and there, and then, slowly build it up. And as a leader, a budget, you'll also need to be able to allocate funds to emergencies. Okay? Organization leaders, SKNYPAs, all right. The last one, the fourth one, sorry, it highlights your bad spending habits. So you may notice you're spending things on you don't need. Like I said, I love food. I like dining. My favorite thing is shamari fried fish and breadfruit. I could eat that all the time. I will never say no if it's offered, guarantee you. So I have to work it into my budget because, I'm always eating it, probably like once, twice a week. So remember I said earlier that your nurturing really is what impacts your spending habits. So for me, it was growing up in a foodie household. For somebody else, it might be, always in the latest fashion, love looking nice, things like that. And luxury may be your weakness, or it could be the lack of. The lack of not having something when you were younger, the lack of not being able to afford something at a certain point in your life, and then now you have it, you overspend and you overabuse. So we have to think about it. It's not always like, the fancy dancy stuff that we have growing up, but sometimes the lack of that causes us to overspend when we get older. So you have to ask yourself, do you need to buy food every day? I don't really need shawarma every day, but if it's offered, I'm going to say yes. Subscriptions, do you really need that extra pair of black pair of sneakers? You probably already have 4. I know the latest Jordans just come out or something, and you might just got a little yellow or extra, but do you really need it? It going to hamper that trip that you set with your friends. So a budget helps you to rethink your spending habits and refocus your financial goals. And the last one is happier retirement. We're young, most of us high school students, we ain't really thinking about no retirement right now. But we have a diverse crowd in here nonetheless. And although, you could do all those nice things, follow your budget to a T, don't have any debt, great, good for you. But we have to think about our future, and I always recommend automating your savings. Treat it like a bill. Treat it like a bill. Then that way you're really prioritizing it. Don't wait until you spend your money and then you say what's left back is what I'm going to save. Prioritize it. And a budget could help you do just that. So if you set aside a portion of your earnings each month, that will contribute to your future. You'll eventually build a nice nest egg. So you might have to sacrifice, just a little bit. I might not get to get married twice a week, maybe just once because, And, instead of, in the future, you'll be having to take trips, probably with your friends, family, cruises, instead of, maybe you still have to work at a grocery store greeting people, unfortunately. Okay? The same thing, we won't be in these positions forever. We won't be in these leadership positions forever. But as leaders, you want to leave well-managed resources, not a deficit for your successors. You want to leave a group and an organization in a space to thrive for longevity. And I hope you will also be thinking about your reputation because you want to leave a legacy of a leader that you were able to manage your resources well. And having a budget keeps your spending in check. Make sure your savings are on track and for a future. A budget helps you create financial stability and success to win. So I believe that we need to be an advocate for financial literacy for ourselves. SKNYPAs, you are in a position to lead, as I just said, and all of us will one day be in a position to lead either an organization, a team, or maybe just our family. But it's for us to take charge and be able to organize and optimize our financial resources. And as we increase our financial literacy, a ripple effects occurs. Because several of the money problems that we face now, I strongly believe that could have been avoided or decreased if it was taught as early as high school. If everyone learns better money management techniques and principles, and we pass on that knowledge, it will greatly improve the lives of Kitishans and Nivisions. And I know I'm kind of running out of time, but this is kind of like a small budget of what a CFBC student budget could possibly look like. And yeah, and I'm being generous, giving you $2,000, I'm just saying. I'm being generous because when I left CFB, I wasn't making that. But what do you think that arrow is as the first thing? savings. That's if you remember I said we have to automate with savings. So I just push aside. I'm hoping that you'll be able to push aside more, but I'm being very generous. The transportation, that's if you're catching bus, right? And if you're paying like Netflix and, little things for yourself. The next one is, next slide. It's just some possible additional expenses that you could also think about that would come up. Don't forget church offering. Yeah, that's right there. Right? So these are some possible additional expenses that we could think about. And the pandemic, of course, heightened our awareness of our income and economic inequality. I mean, this is not the right audience, but we need to make a living wage, and right now the minimum wage is not really a living wage. And an important way to bridge that income gap and facilitate economic mobility is to improve our financial literacy, and we must be an advocate for our people so that we can win. Thank you very much for listening and being so interactive.
Let's hear it one more time for Ms. Nichols. I don't know if anyone else was like me, but I was there taking down my nose because I feel like she was pointing at me for everything. It was just like, don't do that, you want to go on the trip. Don't do that, you want to go on the trip. But I think in the end, she definitely implored us to budget our funds, to think about our future, and automate our savings. So young ones, you gain your little stipend right now. It might be a $50, your 20% or whatever that be. Whatever is your 20% of your $50, you think about saving it, because when you get older and you get your little salary, then your 20%, your savings will be automated. Little tidbits, inch by inch, life's a cinch. Yard by yard, life is hard. So think about that. Our next presenter will be the Honorable AG, Mr. Garth Wilkin. He will be speaking about integrity. So let's welcome him heartily.
Good evening, everyone. Honorable Minister, Director, fellow panelists, everyone, I'm happy to be here. I'm a bit surprised that I was asked to be a panelist because I am not a youth. There are many definitions of what a youth is, but I think today that I'm going to settle it and I'm going to create a universal determination as to what is youth. So, all those who have used a phone that looks like this, let me see your hands. Let me try that again because I believe some people are lying. Let me rephrase it this way. All persons who in their teenage years and above have used a phone like this. Okay. Those are the persons in the same boat as me, and we are not young people. I saw one of the students put up a hand. I got a little shocked there. But, so from now on, when anybody asks you if you're a youth or an adult, you say, did you use a razor? And if you use a razor, then you know what you are. Candace, is that true? I am here to speak about integrity. And I believe that it's important to know that no true leader, no leader that excels in a leadership role can do so without integrity. So bear with me while we go through what integrity is, because I think it's important for people to know and understand. And for the persons who are in here and the persons who are listening who want to be leaders, I think it's important that you need to take integrity seriously. And what is integrity? I don't have slides, so pardon me. It's the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles. What is a quality? A distinctive attribute or characteristic possessed by someone. What is it to be honest? Free of deceit and untruthfulness, being sincere. What are moral principles? Guidelines that people live by to make sure they're doing the right thing. What is the right thing? Making decisions that are not based on your own personal needs, that don't expand your popularity or enhance your personal beliefs. It means doing what is best for the greater or common good. Doing what is best for the greater or common good. For example, maintaining your character when no one is watching. What is character? The mental and moral qualities distinctive of an individual, the way someone thinks, feels, and behaves. Honesty, sincerity, strong moral principles, making decisions for the greater good, not for personal needs. These are the key elements of integrity. The Bible has numerous teachings about integrity. The Bible source, as a nation, of guidance on morality and matters such as integrity. I'm not going to cite the verses, so I'm giving you homework. I'm just going to read the various verses, and then you're going to send me an email, garth.wilkin@gov.kn, with the list of all of the verses. Whoever walks in integrity walks securely, but he who makes his ways crooked will be found out. Amen. Better is a poor man who walks in his integrity than a rich man who is crooked in his ways. The integrity of the upright guides them, but the crookedness of the treacherous destroys them. The righteous who walks in his integrity, blessed are his children after him. Keep your conduct among the Gentiles honorable, so that when they speak against you as evildoers, they may see your good deeds and glorify God on the day of visitation. For we aim at what is honorable, not only in the Lord's sight, but also in the sight of man. So whoever knows the right thing to do and fails to do it, for him it is a sin. Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. And the last one, show yourself in all respects to be a model of good works, and in your teaching, show integrity, dignity. These are the fundamental teachings about how to live a decent, honorable life. I'm a big fan of Game of Thrones and the complex imaginary worlds created by George R.R. Martin. One of my favorite quotes from the book is, never forget what you are, for surely the world will not. Make it your strength, then it can never be your weakness. Armor yourself in it, and it will never be used to hurt you. If any of you wish to be excellent leaders, be honest with your colleagues. Act morally in everything you do. Do the right thing at all times. Uphold the truest elements of integrity, and make those character traits your armor to yourself from those who do not wish to see you succeed. In a practical sense, integrity, particularly in public life, is the action of preventing corruption of yourself and of others. What is corruption? Dishonesty or fraudulent conduct by those in power, typically involving bribery. Supply-side corruption is used to describe the act of offering an illicit payment or undue advantage, whereas demand-side corruption relates to the acceptance or solicitation of such a payment or advantage. Conventional corruption occurs when government officials, whether high or low-ranking, illegitimately receive or accumulate an undue advantage for their own personal use, disregarding public interest. There's an element of reciprocity within the conventional corruption. Both the solicitation and the acceptance of bribes, supply and demand bribery, are therefore considered forms of conventional corruption. A key element in corruption is that no relationship of reciprocity exists, as there is no clear-cut transaction between the two parties. This type of corruption includes acts such as misappropriation, theft, embezzlement, and breach of trust. Systematic corruption exists where corruption is pervasive or entrenched in a society. I've been in, Iceline, how long have we been in office? August 16th to now. That's just over a month. St. Kitts and Nevis has systematic corruption. I say that with no hesitation. I have seen it. I have extra gray hairs because of it, and it's disappointing to me to see it. It exists where it is routine in dealings between government and private individuals or businesses. In such cases, tension exists between formal and informal rules. I mean, I'm reading this and I'm just seeing my life over the last couple of weeks play out. As there are strong incentives for public officials, businesses, and individuals to comply with this illegitimate system. In contrast, isolated or individual corruption exists when corruption is rare or consists of few individual acts. When being a leader, the saying is, if you give a person an inch, they will. It applies when it comes to corruption. Small acts of corruption tolerated by leaders evolve into systematic corruption, easily and sometimes overnight. Only a leader with integrity can put an end to corrupt practices within the institution he or she leads. Because a leader with integrity will not take bribes, he or she will also seek to eradicate bribery within the structure of the institution by setting clear anti-corruption policies and by policing them. In my context, being a minister of government, albeit for a couple of weeks, the way we plan to begin to tackle the currently existing widespread corruption in our federation is by fully operationalizing the Integrity in Public Life Act, the Freedom of Information Act, and the Anti-Corruption Act, which will work as the three pillars of protection from the treasury rapists that currently exist throughout our ministries. All three of these acts will be operationalized this year. And you can mark that down. The Integrity in Public Life Act is an act to make provision for a code of conduct and declarations of interest for public officials for the offenses of abuse of the office, misconduct, and neglect of duty. And in that connection, to make provision for the establishment of the Integrity Commission, its powers and functions, and to provide for related or incidental matters. The Freedom of Information Act is an act to make provision for the disclosure of information held by public bodies or by persons providing services for them and for connected purposes. The purpose of the proposed Anti-Corruption Act will be to strengthen actions to prevent and to fight corruption in the public sector, including in contractual matters, and to enhance public confidence in the public procurement process and public institutions. I was going to give you some examples of the code, but my time is running out. So just to let you know that there is and exists a code of conduct for public officers. It is a crime to breach that code. So I'm not going to read all, but I'm going to read some. A public official should act in a politically neutral manner and should not attempt to frustrate the lawful policies, decisions, or citations of a public authority. A public official shall not allow his or her private interests to conflict with his or her public position. It shall be the responsibility of the public official to avoid such conflicts of interest, whether real, potential, or apparent, and where such conflicts are unavoidable, to fully explain the conflict to any public official above that person, or where the conflict is in relation to a minister of government, to cabinet. With respect to the Freedom of Information Act, it creates a clause dealing with whistleblowers. And it says that, and whistleblower legislation is basically to facilitate persons who see wrongdoing, who speak out against that wrongdoing, from being fired from their institution. So it gives them that protection. Because right now in St. Kitts and Nevis and a lot of other territories, persons are scared. I'll give you an example. Not details of it, but in the last few weeks, there are a few times where I have met with officials in my ministry and have said, why did you not say anything about this? And the response is, what do you want me to do? You know? And this legislation, you know, sometimes we talk about legislation like it's something in the air. This legislation, and when we teach people what are the rights under this legislation, when we operationalize it, people will have the confidence that even if it's me, they can speak out against me. And they don't have to fear losing their job. This is the only way we move forward as a nation. And it's important for you as youth leaders to live by these principles, right? You cannot just say that the rules apply to someone else and they don't apply to you. So I think that's important for you all to know. And the section actually says, a person may disclose information to the commissioner, not the commissioner of police, but the commissioner under the Freedom of Information Act, or to any other authority, on the wrongdoing by a public authority concerning a serious threat to the health or safety of an individual or serious threat to the public or the environment, the commission of a criminal offense, failure to comply with a legal obligation, a miscarriage of justice, corruption, dishonesty, or serious maladministration, abuse of authority or neglect in the performance of official duty, injustice to an individual, or unauthorized use of public funds. So this allows the public official to basically rat, even though rat has a negative connotation, but for the benefit of the country and us all, to call a spade and report ill-doing. We need this, and we need to have brave people if we're going to move forward in this country as a good nation. Leadership with integrity is not shown simply by implementing codes, policies, and rules to control the other people within your institution. It is shown by implementing and policing those codes, policies, and rules, which deter corrupt practices from the institution leadership down to the sanitation team, and being answerable for one's own breaches. One has to be the example and lead by example to be an excellent leader. So if it's anything I want the young leaders in this room to remember from the time when Garth Wilkins spoke to you on September 21st, 2022, is that you need to be better than the ones before us. Our future is in your hands, and we expect you all to lead with integrity. Thank you.
Very thought-provoking, very solemn presentation there by Mr. Wilkin. For a moment, I thought we were in church, and I was saying amen, and then it was just like, yes. It was like, Your Honor, I beseech thee. But I think that he really, really hit the nail on the head, as we would say, that we, the young leaders in this room, no matter the position you occupy, that we need to be better than the ones before us. And there is this song, I think it's John Legend said it, the future started yesterday, but we are already late. And I think that we have a mantle to carry, so let's all try to live and be better examples for the ones coming behind us, and show those there know that integrity still exists. But Mariel, I'll be calling you out if needs be. Okay. All right. So that was a good 1 hour. Okay. So now we had financial literacy and discipline, we had integrity, and now we are moving to innovation. Because as a leader, we need to be creative, we need to stay relevant, and we need to move with the times. And so we're going to have Mr. Raphael Fonswadney, who will be presenting on the innovative leader. So let's welcome him.
I'm trying to figure out why people are laughing. It's short. I'm short. I already know that. Greetings to everyone, Honorable Minister, the various position holders, this young man who had such a literally, I think your introduction and presentation was perfect, the Honorable AG. And to be quite honest, you were inspiring to me because I often have a bit of anxiety when it comes to talking in front of people. In my mind, I'm saying, I can't let a young man. But in any case, I am delighted to be here. And I want to say a pleasant good night to everyone that is here, my fellow panelists, and all that is currently viewing. Initially, when I came in and I read the program, I saw at the top, a new era breaking the barrier, reimagining youth leaders. And the reality is, I thought to myself, how many of the youth in here actually could see themselves in a position where they are, in fact, presenting just as I am right now. And the reality is, it's not impossible. You can do it. I'm not going to be too technical. I don't really write long speeches. I tend to try to freestyle, and I jot down points as I go along because, you know, when I start to read, I may fumble. So unlike Nikira, I don't have, and God, I don't have any long list prepared. However, I want for every youth in here to first of all believe that they can do whatever they put their minds to. You know, I want to give you a bit of my own background as a youth and where I grew up and how much I thought about things. I believe strongly in manifestation. And I personally don't believe that there is nothing that I can't achieve, believe it or not. So anyways, I grew up in Newtown and Connery. I grew up in Newtown and Connery to some very humble parents. I have a Christian background, which may be a bit controversial for what I do currently, but nonetheless, I believe that is one of the reasons why I'm so blessed. My mama is always praying. If she see a comment on social media, she call me, "Fans, you okay? Let's pray." So at the end of the day, you know, I still have a certain level of reverence and belief that I try to maintain. But in any case, like I said, I grew up in Connery and Newtown. I went to preschool in Newtown, which was Miss Vera. Then I moved on to the Moravian School. Then I went to Beach Allen Primary School. After Beach Allen, I went to BHS. I did not go to CFB. I wanted to help my mom in the house. So I went immediately to work. I started to work at Frank B. Armstrong. And then I was working at CNC Supermarket and Barker and Kelly, packing bags and working in the freezer. That was some of the best moments of my life. And at Family Armstrong, I used to go around the island and deliver, you know, food to various shops and houses. That didn't really mean that I didn't want to pursue a higher education anyways. My main purpose for going to work so early was to try to assist my mom. It's not that she was necessarily a single mother, but my dad had went away. He used to do construction, so during primary school, I was always working, heading blocks and cements on various job sites. My dad was from the Newtown side, and my mom was from Connery, so we spent a lot of weekends in Connery, and, you know, apart from that, Newtown is where I lived. After Franklin Armstrong, I could remember that was a job that my first paycheck was shocking. Like, wow, this is the amount of money you could make when you come out of school. I think it was like $1,200 at the time. And then I figured, no, that isn't enough because I wanted flashier clothes. So I decided I want another job. But just stick with me as a youth because I'm showing you that you need to work for what you want, more or less. You don't have to be fully dependent on your parents. And this in itself opened up your mind to be leaders, to be innovative, you know, and all of these fancy things that we're here speaking on tonight. While working at Family Armstrong, I had the opportunity to work a second job, which one of my friends introduced me to, which was at a call center. So after working at Family Armstrong, I walked down the road just a little bit, and I was working at a call center from about 7 to like midnight. So this was me, and I didn't really say anything to my fellow co-workers because I started working at a very, very young age. And I'll get to that. So after working at Frank B. Armstrong, I got a call, as a matter of fact, from National Bank because after finishing high school, I sent out tons of, my resume. It wasn't really a resume at that time. I mean, the only work experience I really had was packing bags, heading blocks and cement, and then my high school education. I think I had 9 subjects back then. So anyways, I did the interview at National Bank, and I remember the HR manager asking me, "Are you sure you're ready? I mean, you seem mature, but are you really ready? Because your age is..." So I said, "Yes, I am. I need to help my mother." So the lady gave me the job, and I started to work at National Insurance, which is how Nikia actually knows me, because her mom worked at, still works at National Insurance. So anyways, I started to work at National Insurance. I was given maximum respect. For the most part, these people, like I said, had no idea what my age was. And one time, I don't remember exactly what happened, but they eventually found out, and I was only 17 years old at the time. So I started working at National Bank Group of Companies when I was 17 years old, and it was only at that time the general manager, she mentioned to me, "I don't even understand how you end up here, but the fact is we couldn't even figure it out, so it means that you were doing well." So eventually I resigned from National Insurance, and my dad had gotten us our green card, and then I used that opportunity. I went off to university. I went to BCC. I studied marketing management and sales at the associate level, and then after that I did a bachelor's degree in economics, and I did a double minor in computer application systems as well as business law. So most people wouldn't even anticipate that I have such an educational background because they don't think that entertainment needs someone with that type of experience. But I do believe that this is one of my competitive edge in addition to being innovative, which is my topic to speak on tonight. While going to college, I also had a side job. I was working as a data analyst at Lehman College, and then after that, I became a data analyst at a non-profit organization in New York by the name of Harlem Children's Zone. Life happened. I got a child, and I remember telling her mom that I would come back to St. Kitts after a year or two, which I did eventually, and I was hired here as a business analyst working for Brownhill Communications. Brownhill Communications eventually closed down, and it was at that time where I decided to make my sideline hobby more or less a full-time experience. So during college, I used to fly back to St. Kitts from time to time to host events that originally started as a modeling show. Cane Juice was officially and originally a clothing line, and then after that, the entertainment aspect started to take off, and we just found new and creative ways to grow what we were doing, and in a sense, now we help to shape what the sector is today in terms of entertainment. So first, let's get to the definition of innovation or being innovative. Is there anyone brave enough to tell me what they think that means? Somebody must be brave enough. Well, since we're on the clock, I'll tell you what it is. Innovation refers to the development of new ideas or the improvement of existing ideas, and also being creative. Did everybody get that? Innovation refers to development of new ideas or the improvement of existing ideas, and creative thinking. I'm a person that sometimes I do more audiobooks than actual reading, because I like to, at the same time, when I'm listening, I try to multitask. Sometimes I feel as if I don't even have enough time to do certain things, but at the end of the day, I try to, dedicate myself to reading at least maybe 3 books in a year, not in a year, I'll be honest. Because when I choose the books, I tend to choose books where I feel would add some form of value to who I am and what I do. And one of my favorite books that I've read is called the 48 Laws of Power, among some others. But there are some quotes that I would just like to mention to the younger people. The first one is, there is nothing more intoxicating than victory and nothing more dangerous. There is nothing more intoxicating than victory and nothing more dangerous. Garth spoke just a while ago to levels of corruption, and the reality is sometimes it is easy to become corrupted after you have gotten some victory, and it's sad, it runs deep throughout our society, starting from the head. And as young individuals now, as much as we may talk to you, you may try to take in as much as you can, but I am imploring that you would take some time within yourself to also be able to control whenever you hit and unlock new levels of success, because you could easily become consumed with not just what people are saying, but also the power that you may possess. So I feel that that is what this ultimately means. And there is something else that you have to be aware of. There's an opposite side to success that people really don't prepare us for, and that is you will eventually get more attention. People will look at you. People will look at you differently. You will have admirers, you would have people that love you, and then you would have people that are actually targeting you. And I feel, even for myself, that I have been going through various phases of learning to cope with success and attention, and also the fact that people view you as a leader and as an innovator, something that you have to keep in mind. So never waste valuable time or mental peace of mind on the affairs of others. That is too a high price to pay. Let's go back to some innovation now. So when I initially got the email to come and speak to you about innovation, I was trying to figure out, how do I really pivot this? It's supposed to be interactive, but at the same time, I know that most people wouldn't want to say anything because they are shy. They wouldn't want to say anything because they may be shy, which we have seen for the entire night. So I don't even anticipate asking questions and getting answers, because I know for the most part I'll be talking to myself, which is unfortunate. So I don't have a slide, and I won't ask too many questions, but I will say certain things based on some of the research that I've done. 12 characteristics of innovative people. I won't go through all 12. I decided to single out some of them. Innovation inherently involves uncertainty, creativity, and a special mindset that not all people have or are willing to embrace. What distinguishes innovative individuals from others? Let's go through some key characteristics of innovative people. Number one, continuous reflection. Through continuous reflection, and this was a study that was done on a group of people that were selected, for being innovative. Through continuous reflection, participants were able to notice new pieces of information that were potentially important for whatever project it is that they were doing, like a radar endlessly scanning the environment. So when you're innovative, more or less, you continuously try to reflect. And I could say this for myself. I don't know if I was chosen for this platform because you guys view me as an innovative individual. If that is the case, then I truly appreciate it. And this is what I try to do, even in my own personal business. But it is hard sometimes for me to even settle. Sometimes when I'm making a decision or I am trying to do something completely brand new, I will go through it over and over in my head. And I am the type of person that believes in doing a lot of research and development. So even after, we have introduced a new event concept to St. Kitts and Nevis, you start to now think about how people would accept it. And even before you could get them to accept it, you need to find ways in which you would get them to buy into it. So even when it came to the Cooler Fed, when we initially started it, I don't think there was any Cooler Fed taking place in St. Kitts prior to that. And this was an experience that I had when I went to an event in Brooklyn. And it was an older guy that took me there from St. Kitts. And for me, I was in the event and I'm saying to myself, I don't think Sinkits have this experience and I want to do it. And at that moment, even after thinking about doing it, I started to second guess how would they buy into it and what we could do and all of these things. In any case, you still have to be brave enough and take that leap of faith and try to execute whatever it is the objective is you have in mind. So we introduced the concept, and an entire decade later, what started out with patrons at around, let's say, maybe 400 or 500 people, now we are seeing numbers of at least 5,000 to 6,000 people when we host this event during carnival time. So for me, that means that we've done something correctly. And each and every single year, we go through just about as much reviews as we can. We have people scanning social media, including myself. We read every single comments. We see how best we could improve. And over the years, we have tried our very best to implement that. We didn't used to have online tickets at first. We didn't used to have barcoded tickets at first. And then eventually we decided to move into that because there was a situation in 2016 where there was tons of rain outside and people were frustrated trying to get inside, and only one gate was there to purchase tickets and also enter at the same time. After assessing what had taken place, we were able to implement online ticketing, 2 entrances, and anything that was necessary to make the process faster and make the presence being in line a bit more pleasant. So you would find, even now, one of the things that, and I could say this, one of the things that we have done in the past and will do is to provide some entertainment outside that would showcase our culture, such as Maka Jumbi or masquerade, something like that. So the wait in line doesn't feel long because you're being entertained at the same time. All of these things is part of us being innovative thinkers and moving forward. It would have cost us a great deal of money for us to upgrade the systems that we had in place back then, but it was able to help me in more ways than one. I was the victim of theft one year, and our tickets were basically stolen, and I was trying to figure out how it even happened, but because of the system that we were able to put in place and the background that I had in terms of data analytics, we were able to trace exactly where the tickets came from. And the tickets had actually come from, like a bunch of tickets had come from my own home. If I didn't have the innovative mindset to implement policies and procedures and technologies that would help us to advance as the event grows, then I perhaps would have never been in a position to track down these tickets. Long story short, when we did our investigations, I was able to find out that it was actually somebody that was working close to me is who had stolen the tickets. So all I had to say this, it's all part and parcel of you being an innovative thinker in whatever respective position or businesses that you may eventually have. And if you already have a business, then at least being innovative is a tool that you can use to take your business operations to the next level. So that was a story plus a bit more in one. Another characteristic, action-oriented. Another driver of innovative individuals was their action-oriented behavior. This personality trait allowed them to move from intellectual work to practical ideas, which proved fundamental when building a prototype and running the experiment. Action-oriented individuals push their teams to move from planning the experiment setup to building prototypes and to run the experiments early. I won't spend too much time on that. In a nutshell, innovative thinkers are also action-oriented. If you're thinking it, you have to find a way to get it done. And sometimes it may seem like by any means necessary, because innovative thinkers are people that if you have it in your mind, you just need to find a way to get it out. And essentially, that's quite fine. It is okay. Innovative thinkers are always thinking. That's another question. That's the other thing. Opportunity focused. Well, some individuals only saw dead ends opportunity-focused participants were able to see opportunities in different situations and shared with their teams several possible routes for the project. This played a key role in moving the team forward into experiments. This type of mindset promoted innovative behavior also when unexpected opportunities arose. People who adapt, this is very powerful, people who adapt positively to adversity are more prone to innovative behaviors. I want to read that again. People who adapt positively to adversity are more prone to innovative behaviors. Can anyone tell me what they think that means? At least. I don't want to read all night. I saw some heads nodding. So I would imagine, do you want to say what it You don't want to say it? Okay. You want a mic? Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. Lovely. I like the fact that you said to push past the negativity. Earlier, I asked the Honorable AG, how did he cope with certain comments at first when he initially got his position, and he said he is fully understanding that people would have opinions. That is one, and two, he is very comfortable in who he is as an individual, so he was not necessarily bothered. That is going to stick with me. He now knows for the rest of my life, right? Because I think that is probably one of the best ways to put it. And in this context, people who adapt positively to adversity are more prone to innovative behaviors. So even in his new post, I can guarantee you just by his outlook and what he said to me that he is going to be prone to innovative behaviors. Correct? Nice. Another point is mental resilience. The study demonstrates that people who adapt positively to adversity and don't let challenges defeat them are also more prone to innovative behaviors. Mental resilience allows people to take in the new information, in negative feedback, accept it as a constructive way and remain operative. This also means being able to let go of an idea once it is proven unsuccessful and continuing to explore other solutions. You can't really stick to something if you realize that it didn't work. I mean, sometimes you could go back and try again, but at the same time, as an individual, and even when you're trying to accomplish something, if it's not being done, if you're not getting it done one way, you could look for another way. Because sometimes we are so prone to doing it this way, and even in our own profession, we may feel as if we have the answers, but the reality is if you just step back and seek some guidance and even ask for assistance, younger people especially, there's nothing wrong in asking for assistance, then you may find a way to the solution. I'm going to read two more. Intellectual humility. The field data revealed that intellectual humility was also at the core of innovation. The more innovation-driven individuals had a mindset that was humble in the face of a new information, and they were open to learning by acknowledging the limits of their own knowledge. Intellectual humility also allows openly sharing feedback that is discouraging, which may open up new avenues for developing alternative solutions. It's really no shame in the game. You might have the sauce, but you could get lost in the sauce. So you might need to just redevelop the sauce and come back with the sauce again, right? You take certain businesses in St. Kitts and Nevis, and I would look at them and say, I think that this brand needs to change the logo slightly or change the color. If you look at, for example, Apple have gone through various changes over the entire lifespan of the company, in terms of the logo, in terms of their products, what they do. And I love to look at Apple and what they do and how they do it, even when it comes to my business, because I do believe that it is a good model to look at. And there is nothing wrong in, you're not reinventing the wheel, but you need to know when it's time to change and adapt and be innovative and reintroduce. And for me, I am always challenging myself to continuously be a beacon that people would look at. I fundamentally believe that where I came from, where I am now, and where I am heading is my ultimate purpose is to be a motivation and an inspiration to anybody, whether it is from my community or anyone in this room. Ultimately, when my name is mentioned, after everything that you said, I want you to be able to say that he was good at this at the end of the day. And part of who I am as an individual now is because of my courage to be innovative and my courage to also be different. The last point that I will speak about is courage. When running the experiments, like I said, this was based on a study, the individuals had to submit their unfinished ideas for early evaluation by users or other relevant stakeholders and receive instant feedback. These situations required participants to show courage and step out of their comfort zone, as they did not know what the response would be. The only way to find out was to place themselves in a vulnerable situation, facing the risk of refusal and failure. Some people don't like to be in that position, but you really must have on your record some evidence of you learning from, whether it is you failed at it or you didn't succeed at it, but all of these experiences will help to shape and mold who you become and who you are currently. Some people don't like to admit to failure. Some people don't like to admit that they struggled. My lifestyle, my background is not a perfect one, and for me that is what helps to shape the story that I can eventually tell. That being said, I didn't want to be too long. I wanted to stick to the script, and I do hope that my presentation was very informative and I have left some seed in, if not every single one of you, the majority of you, where you can go forth and be fearless and be innovative. Thank you.
Thank you once more. Before I speak, the driver of PA 51, we left your lights on. We want you to get home after this informative session. Driver of PA 51, if you're here. But I just want to commend Mr. Rodney on that insightful presentation. Of course, I'm here taking my notes, and I'm just pleased with the tidbits that I have. Persons are messaging me, persons on the live, and they're really commending this St. Kitts National Youth Parliament Association for the diversity in the panel, and I think that we ought to give them another round of applause. So of course we wanted to retain information, so we just have a slight entertainment break, and we're going to invite the Brotherhood drummers to give us a cultural presentation. Let's welcome them, please. I think we could do better than that for them. I think that we must commend the young people for that exciting display of culture. And of course, as youth leaders, you must take a break to relax sometimes too, right? Panelists, you are the experts here. We'll move into the final half of our presentations, and we'll call on Mrs. Natasha Gray-Brooks, who will be speaking on perseverance. Because the trials will come, but you have to know how to deal with them. So she'll give you some insight. Welcome up.
Mr. Master of Ceremonies, please allow me to adopt the protocol that has been so ably established. There are a few things that Mr. Rodney and I have in common. We share some community involvement. We share similar height. And we also grew up in Newtown. And we also started to work at an early age. I don't think he said how early he started, but I started at 15. Okay. But it is an absolute honor and privilege to be here this evening, sitting amongst my fellow panelists and this enthusiastic audience. I know you have been answering questions all night. And so I don't want to ask you too many, so I will try my utmost best not to. But if I do, please answer at least one. The theme, as you are aware, for this youth forum is a new era, breaking the barrier, reimagining youth leaders. And as I look across this audience, I can see so many leaders of the Federation for our future. And I know when you leave here this evening, you would have had gained some insight as to how to be the best leader, how to be the best you, and how to make people feel proud of your accomplishments and be able to look to you with pride. Now, one of the attributes of a good leader is being able to persevere. And so, having had such a nice break with the entertainment, I'm urging you to just persevere just a little bit longer with us as we continue with the speeches or presentations. Now, some persons have a number of attributes as it relates to being a leader. Some of them, they may possess them naturally. Others, you would have to grow into them. And some, you would have to choose to make them a part of you. It is not always easy being in a leadership position. The Honorable AG has indicated some of what he has experienced so far. However, once you possess the right qualities, a number of things would fall into place. You have to be determined, and so you must be able to persevere. The definition of perseverance is to persist in anything undertaken, to maintain a purpose in spite of difficulties, obstacles, and discouragement, and to continue steadfastly despite delay in achieving success. Now, have you had an experience where you were successful, but you've had a number of hiccups along the way? Anyone? All right. Do you care to share with us any of those experiences? No? Yes? One or two? Lord, y'all gonna do me like fans too. Okay, well, if you don't share your experiences, I think I have had my own share of experiences which would have resulted in a number of delays, me overcoming a number of hurdles, And although I've had those challenges, I did not allow it to stop my path to success. Positioning yourself to become a leader or be involved in a leadership role, it does not come without its shares of challenges. I am sure, as I said, you have had your experiences, but you must be able to persevere. I completed high school at the age of 15 with enough O levels to attend CFBC. At that time, 6 was a lot. Now 6 ain't mean nothing, but I had 6. But I wanted to become a lawyer, and I also wanted to work and make my own money. So I decided to go to work. Anyone want to take a guess as to what my weekly wage was? How much? 400? $110. Yeah. And we are arguing about minimum wage. What? $110 a week. I think by the time I finished that job, I was making 2 something. Anyhow, that is history. But I went to work and I said I would pursue my A levels by attending afternoon classes. Some months after, I discovered that I was pregnant and I became a teenage mother at the age of 16. I can recall dozing off in the examination room whilst I was doing one of the A-level exams. And that particular exam, I was unable to get an A-level pass, but I got an O-level grade. My plan was to pursue my studies in law after completing the A-levels. However, with the results having failed one of the A-levels and becoming a teenage mom, the plans to go to study was deferred by some 8 years. During that 8 years, I had my share of challenges, but I never allowed those challenges to deter me. I was not about to let anything take me away from my dream of becoming a lawyer. I journeyed to London to pursue a law degree. Even that was a challenge because before applying to the university in London, I applied to the University of West Indies. And because at that point, as I said, I chose not to go to CFBC, so that was my bad. But I had the challenge of trying to pursue my A levels. And then I applied, I think it was 3 times to UE. The third time, I don't know where my application is. I don't know where my original certificates are. And that was history. So I had to go to the Ministry of Education, pay $10 to get a letter to say that I've obtained these passes so that I can make my application to the school in London. When I went to London, the very first day when I reached, I could not find the hotel that I was supposed to be staying at. I saw a gentleman. At this point, I thought I was bundled up properly. I had on, I guess, a sweater what we does wear in Christmas time when we think it's cold here. And so I saw this gentleman. Here am I. It wasn't no police suitcase. I don't know where I got that kind of bag from that I couldn't pull on the streets in London. But, so I left my luggage packed up on the side. I went and I knocked on the glass. It was about minutes to 7 in the morning. And I asked him if he knows what time, where the hotel was first. Then he pointed it out to me. And then I asked him if he knew what time it would open. And he said it may be around 9. And so he said you could come inside and stay warm until it's open. I was very happy because my toes were freezing. And so I went inside. He helped me to put the luggage inside. And we began to talk. He asked, where I was from. He was from, I think it was Bangladesh, if my memory serves me correct. But he was living in London for a particular point in time. And so he asked a number of questions, we talked, and then he asked if I wanted to make a phone call, because at that point I did not have any access to telephone to even call my family members here in St. Kitts to let them know I've arrived safely. And he allowed me to make the telephone call, and then he wanted a kiss. And he blocked the area for me to get out, and I had to push my way out, leaving my luggage in an effort to get away. And so I saw a lady who was about to take her daughter to dance class, and that was how I got my luggage. And so my journey in London began bad. I had no family members, I knew no one in London, but I was determined that I was there for a purpose, and I was going back to St. Kitts with my law degree. I only had enough funding to cover my tuition. And so what I had from family members would have been about maybe 6 months worth of money to get me through rent, etc. And so I knew I had to get a job. I got a job within about 3 weeks because I have my 8-year-old son in St. Kitts. His father is living in America, and he has to eat, I have to eat, and so I got a job. Guess where I worked? Thank you. That is the savior for everybody in London. McDonald's. I got so fed up of McDonald's, I used to even cook my own food because the smell and all used to upset me at a point in time. But McDonald's was my saving grace for the 4 years that I was in London, because it allowed you to be flexible in terms of your shift. The pay wasn't the greatest, but if you put in the hours and do what you need to do, you can be able to sustain yourself. I used to get paid every 2 weeks. So 2 weeks was for my maintenance, and the other 2 weeks was for my son. So that is how I survived in London financially. I was also working, so I would do maybe a 5 o'clock shift in the morning, finish by 2, and then I have class at 3, or I would go to class and then go to work. And I would do overnight shifts from midnight until 6 a.m., go home, take a shower, and go to school for 8 o'clock, in order to make sure that I made ends meet and I was able to pursue my career. I was determined that I would be able to complete my studies and also maintain my son. He should not have to suffer as a result of my venture. I graduated in June of 2010 with a Bachelor of Law with honors upper second class, and every single year I was the top student and given an award of merit. That was phase 1 to becoming a lawyer. I wanted to give myself options, and based on advice, I was told it was an easier route to be called to the bar in England and Wales. At that time, the cost of that was £15,000. Nothing to do with my student loan for the law degree. Meanwhile, my interest continued to accrue at Development Bank because I was unable to pay the interest. And so, here am I, have completed my law degree, but don't know where I'm going to find £15,000 to start school in 3 months. I spent my entire summer in 2010 in England. I worked every single shift possible, and I also had to apply, whilst I was in London, had to apply for another loan in Development Bank. And because I wasn't paying my interest, that interest formed part of the second loan, and I was only able to get 15,000 US. And so I had to get the rest to be able to meet the £15,000. And so I asked my aunt to see if she can get a loan on my behalf in the credit union. And I did one of the craziest things. She got the loan for me, and in order to pay the year that I would be pursuing the loan, I had to take the amount to be able to make the 12 months installment inside that figure so that I can be able to pay back credit union because I would not have had the funds at that time. And so my quest had not ended. However, she was successful. She got the loan, and so I was able to pay the £15,000 for my tuition to carry out the bar. At that time, it was the bar vocational program. Yes, I think. It's been a while. And so I got called to the bar in England and Wales in 2011. And it was time for me to return home to my son, but I still had to go through phase 3, which required another set of money, which I didn't have to go to Jamaica to do the 6-month course so that I can get my LEC and be admitted to the bar of the country of my birth. At that point, I was running around like a headless chicken because I literally had no money, and I already had the existing loans for which I could not even deal with. So I asked someone again if they can take a loan for me and be able to cover the 6-month period so that when I returned from Jamaica, I would be able to make the payments. And there are a number of persons who you can really count on in life, and I think it's always good to show gratitude. That loan was taken, and thank God, all my loans are cleared off. And I was able to be called to the bar in St. Kitts and Nevis in July of 2012. We must be determined in whatever we want to do. We must always ensure that we do not give up. Do not let hurdles define who we are. We must set the goals for ourselves as good leaders. Even higher ones, which some may think it's hard to reach. Even you may say, I can't accomplish that. But once you are determined and you have your eyes on a particular prize, anything is possible. Do not be afraid to take risks, but you have to be prepared to fail. Let me repeat that. You have to be prepared to fail. But every time you fail, you must start over and try again. Try it from a different angle, as Fons would have indicated. But you must give it a next shot and the next one. If you fall down 100 times, get up on the 101st time. My plan to become a lawyer was not to be employed, but I had to start somewhere. And so I am thankful for Chesley Hamilton, who opened up his chambers to me and employed me as an associate in his firm. But I knew within myself that I was enough to someday have my own firm. And sure enough, in 2015, I opened the doors of Gray's Legal Chambers, and I am proud of the service that I offer and the name that I have built for myself. I have a 24-year-old son, and he has taught me to be strong, tenacious, determined, and perseverant. At no time did I let becoming a teenage mother deter me from my goal. In fact, I think that life-changing experience has made me the individual I am today. Every time I accomplish something, I have the urge to do something greater. I have the desire to become a better version of myself, but I have to have the stick-to-itiveness. Something always seems impossible until it is done. Have you ever had an experience where someone tells you you cannot accomplish something, or not you, or that ain't for you, but you prove them wrong? Do you have any experience where you can look back and say, I did it? Never give up on your dreams, your goals, and your desires. The only guarantee for failure is to stop trying. Fancy innovation here. It is always easy for someone to be tempted to give up. Sometimes we just have to put on our big girl and big boy pants and learn to endure. Mary Ann Radmacher, an American author and artist, says, and I quote, "Courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes courage is the quiet voice at the end of the day saying, I will try again tomorrow." End quote. When you fail, that should not be the end of your journey. It now gives you an opportunity to begin again and work smarter and work harder. Another experience for me to share. I am not just a lawyer. I am now a young politician. And I say young not because I'm old like you, and not because I feel that I'm a teeny bopper, and not because I didn't use a razor. I didn't use a razor because I couldn't afford it. But I say young because it was less than a year since I was announced as a candidate for the People's Action Movement in October of 2021. I have always had a desire to be a political candidate. In July 2021, I became pregnant with my daughter. And I said to myself, okay, I have 4 years before an election, so I have some time to organize myself and try to make sure I show myself a little more, continue the program that I'm doing, and, things happened. Things happened before I was even aware what was happening. Never in my wildest dreams did I imagine that I would be going through an election campaign in 2022. And so soon after giving birth, my daughter was born on the 22nd of March, 2022. Tomorrow she celebrates her half birthday, something I'm learning now. And when I recognized that there was about to be an elections or heightened things happening, I was 7.5 months pregnant with COVID in the hospital on oxygen. As a result of COVID, my blood pressure levels went whack. So I had to do a C-section. And all that came in the height of the election campaign. That's all right. Even though I did not win the seat, I have won hearts, I have won souls, and every single day I am encouraged to continue my journey. Persons from different political parties come and tell me how they enjoyed my campaign. They wish I was on Labour side. They think I should take over the party. They think I should do this. And one person met me and they said, after I'm telling you all this, can I get a wow? I was like, okay. But it just shows that success is not always defined by the end result. It is defined by the impact that you have made. I mean, even sometimes when I hear people stop me and want to take a picture with me, and I went back and I watched the results, I was like, what? Is it me that But I am encouraged to continue my journey, and I will not give up on my political journey. And so the comments continue to fuel my energy, they reignite my passion, and I will not quit until I succeed. Perseverance must be embedded within you. You must make it the fiber of your very being. Having the ability to persevere must be a part of you. It is not taught, and you cannot learn it from a book or on TikTok or on Facebook. People feed off of your energy. And if persons within your circle or groups recognize your persistence, it is a trait that they will want to mirror. I urge you to remain resolute. I urge you to remain persistent in anything you undertake. I urge you to maintain your purpose in spite of difficulties, because there will be many difficulties, many obstacles, and many discouraging moments. I urge you to continue steadfastly despite delay in achieving success. Giving up should never be an option. Take the word quit from out of your vocabulary. Always be passionate about succeeding. It must burn within you like a pit of coals, so that everywhere you turn, people can see your passion. People can see that fire igniting. If you fall down, get up. If you feel that you have hit rock bottom, get up. Do not allow anything to hinder you from your growth and your opportunities to become the best leader. You must persevere. The Bible says in Hebrews 10, ain't only you want to read the Bible. The Bible says in Hebrews 10, verse 36, for you have need of endurance, so that when you have done the will of God, you may receive what is promised. The popular verse, Philippians 4, verse 3, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. 2 Chronicles 15, verse 7 says, but you take courage. Do not let your hands be weak, for your work shall be rewarded. One day you will become that big upset. One day you will rock the boat. One day people will know who you are. You must always have a plan and a strategy. This will strengthen your drive to persevere. Always expect challenges and obstacles. It will not always be easy. These setbacks will form part of the process, and you will be able to look down the road and see the champion of a leader you have become, just because you persevered. Your perseverance will shape the type of person you will become and the type of leaders that others will desire to be. Continue to challenge yourself and others to rise to a new level. And I look forward to coming to all the celebrations that everyone in here would be having, because I see great things happening for you. And I look forward to hearing from you. And if it is at any point in time you want to ask me a question, come and have a chat, I will make myself available, not just this evening, but anytime. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
So were you inspired or were you inspired? Truly a touching story, truly one that shows us that it's not where you start, it's where you finish. And it's how you end. And the journey. So much we can learn from Mrs. Brooks, and we are grateful that you were a part of our panel. The persons in my WhatsApp are saying, who would have thought had she not told her story? And so I think persons are truly moved by your presentation. So let's give her one more round of applause. And we'll bring the presentations down with our final speaker for this evening, Miss Nadia Rollins, who will be presenting on authenticity and self-awareness.
Good evening, everyone. I was arguing with Hassani a little earlier because I was like, why on earth did you put me for last? I don't have a nice story like the others to share. Why, Hassani, why? But anyway, I'll bring up the rear, and because of that, I'll go longer. Just kidding, just kidding, just kidding, just kidding. So first off, let me thank you guys thank the Youth Parliament Association for inviting me to be a part of this panel. I must commend you for the work you have done over, it's 21 years, right? 21 years, commend you. I know many of my friends started out in SKNYPA. That wasn't my thing, so I didn't join. But many of my friends were members of SKNYPA, so I know the 21 years, you've done quite a lot in youth development, and I just hope that you'll be able to continue on this journey. So my task for this evening is to speak on self-awareness and authenticity. So I am going to take it from the angle of how developing your self-awareness is critically important for you being your most authentic self. So, next slide. And I'm going to ask questions as well. Okay, so what comes to mind when you think of authenticity? What are some of the words? Okay, I see a hand raised. Wow. I feel good. Yes. Okay, great. Great. Perfect, perfect. That's perfect. Perfect answer. So, next slide. So, being true to yourself. So, words like being real, being honest, being genuine, trustworthy, not fake. Right? Authenticity is being true to your own personality, your own values, regardless of the pressure that you are under to act otherwise. It involves being honest with yourself and others, like the young lady mentioned, and taking responsibility for your actions. And I'm sure we could think of other words when we hear authenticity. We could think of credibility, reliability, being transparent, right? So for you to be authentic, again, you have to be true to yourself, to your values, to your morals, all the things that you know are within you and you were taught growing up, regardless of the pressure for you to act otherwise. So let's go now to the next keyword in my presentation, self-awareness. Next slide. What comes to your mind when you think of self-awareness? No more hands. I got excited. Come on. What do you think of when you hear the word self-awareness? And don't tell me to be aware of yourself. What do you think about? Nobody? Okay, the buzz gone now from the raising of the hand. But, sorry. Honorable? Okay, comfort with your inner self. Okay, anybody else? Okay. Weaknesses. Okay, I will not use the word weaknesses for this evening. Let's use limitations, right? So it's knowing your strengths, knowing your own strengths and limitations, knowing your opinions, your feelings, your emotions. If you look at this slide, you see all of the words there, your flaws, your beliefs, your desires. So self-awareness is the ability to take an honest look at your life, seeing yourself clearly and objectively, seeing all of these sides of you, not just the good, but also the bad. And if you go to the next slide, so for you to be an authentic leader, for you to be someone who is real and someone who is genuine, etc., you have to have some sort of self-awareness. You have to know you have to know who you are, what makes you you. What do you want to accomplish? What is your purpose? So authenticity and self-awareness goes hand in hand. You cannot be an authentic leader, somebody who is real and genuine, if you don't really understand yourself and you don't really understand what type of leader you want to be. I'm sure Muriel would have done some self-reflection, in taking up this role. What type of leader did you want to be? You probably would have thought about all these things. So these two goes hand in hand. You have to have some sort of awareness of self in order for you to be your authentic self. So they go hand in hand. So by a show of hands, this is for everybody now. How many of you think you are the most self-aware? Nobody could tell you nothing about yourself. You know exactly who you are. Okay, we have one. Okay, some hands coming up. Okay, so we have a lot of people feel that, okay, they're confident that they are self-aware. Next slide. Expectation. I am super self-aware. And the reality is, not all of us are. Right? A study was done, I think it was about, they surveyed about 5,000 people, and they found that out of that 5,000, about 10 or 15% of persons, based on their criteria, were actually self-aware. Because self-awareness is not something that is easy to do. When you have to take a look at yourself, removing the mask and removing everything, the facades and everything, it's hard. It's hard to take a look at yourself and really look at yourself objectively, right? And I know at your age, there are a lot of high school students in the room, and at your age, you may not have things figured out at the moment, and that's okay. So some of you may not have been able to raise your hand, and that's okay. Because you're still figuring out, you know, who you are, what you want to do, what you're good at, what you want from life. And it will take time. But reality is, not all of us are as self-aware as we think. And that is because, as I said, self-awareness is not easy at all. And there are so many things that get in our way, including our emotions. Our emotions tend to hijack everything, right? Other stuff that gets in our way could be our environment, how we were raised, how we were socialized. So it kind of hinders us from actually knowing who we are, knowing what we are truly about. So there are a lot of things working against us, and we are wired in such a way that we have to protect ourselves from any kind of pain and danger and any kind of harm. So for us to take that look, that real deep look into ourselves, you're telling the body, brain is telling you, no, I don't think you can handle this. Cool out for a second, right? So it is really not an easy task when you have to look real deep within yourself. And as leaders, you know, that is something that you have to do. Because how are you going to lead a group such as SKNYPA or any other organization if you truly don't know what you stand for? You don't really understand where you want to go, what direction you want to take your group. So you really have to look within yourself. And, you know, when we're not self-aware, we tend to, our emotional reactions tend to not always match the situation. So the situation is here and your emotions are here. They don't match because you're not really aware of what's going on. You can't process it. You can't put it into words. So the situation is, and you're like, and then how many you can actually pause for a minute and say, like, why did I react that way to a situation that was only here? That's because you don't really understand how to control your emotions. I don't know if many of you have heard of emotional intelligence. So you're not really aware of how to, you know, manage these emotions that you face. And then you keep repeating negative patterns over and over again. Or you have a hard time being consistently successful because you just can't seem to put the pieces of your life and the pieces of the puzzle together. And you just can't essentially figure out who you are. Next slide. So how do you create this self-awareness? Now this self-awareness calls for us to be curious about who we are, seeking feedback from others, which is not always easy for us to do because that's the external part of it. How do others see me? Am I prepared to hear that? Am I prepared to hear that I have these limitations when I thought I was a top dog? Right? Reflecting on your own feelings and behaviors and doing your own self-analysis. Now, at your age, for those of you that are in high school, or even some adults, because some of us ain't really got it together either, we just going through the motions, right? So, this is the perfect time for the young people and the young leaders in this room to look around you. Look at those that you admire, those persons whose strengths you wish you had, and those strengths you would like to emulate. Engage these persons in conversation, and I'm glad that Mrs. Gray said that you could talk to her at any time. So ask her, how are you willing to get through all of that? How are you still able to navigate and manage your constituency? Ask the Honorable Garth, how are you able to manage that new role? What is it about you? Like, ask persons, you got to ask persons. Ask Nikira, how does she turn on that when she hit the stage? So to ask persons and engage them. You have to be willing to look internally and externally, right? You have to learn from other persons that are around you. Think about those persons, because they're persons that we admire. Why? What is it about them that you admire? And ask them questions, engage them. How did you get to be this person, or how did you get to be at this stage in your life? Think also about moments in your life where you felt your best. What strengths were you using? Because sometimes it is very easy for us to speak about our limitations and not our strengths. Because the limitations make for the better story. That's the more entertaining part of it. I can't do this. Yeah, it's true, you can't do that. So it's a better story. So it's hard for us when you ask, what are some of your strengths? And you hear a long pause. But what are some of your weaknesses? Well, I can't do this. It's always easiest for us to look at that side of us. But we also have to look at the strengths. Look at, what are you good at? So you have to ask yourself, do you like what you are becoming, who you are becoming now? Do you like where you are now? Are you producing the results that you want? You also have to ask yourself, and for you to be your most authentic self and a strong leader, what are the areas where you normally excel? Think about it. What are the areas where you normally excel? What are you good at? Also, what are the areas that you normally face difficulties and struggles? Who are the kind of people and things and events that you like the most? The people that bring you happiness or sadness. So you really have to take a real assessment of almost every area of your life, including those around you, those places that you go, those things that you're involved in. Next slide. So in order to be that self-aware and authentic leader, you understand yourself. So you fully understand that these are my strengths, these are my limitations, I'm able to manage my emotions productively, I'm able to lead this group. The authentic and self-aware leader is also able to recognize how they impact others. What effect do you have on those people around you? You're also able to model vulnerability. And that means simply you can create an environment in which self-awareness and vulnerability is encouraged among your group. So all of us thriving and becoming self-aware and working together because you've set that example and you're able to lead in such a way that hopefully it will trickle down to the members of your group. When you're able to do these things, it positively affects the type of leader you become. Truly effective leadership comes from self-awareness. With self-awareness, you're more confident, you're a confident leader. But the young people, they say nobody could style you. Right? You're a more confident leader. You're creative and you're innovative like fonts. You make sound decisions. You're able to communicate effectively and you're able to learn from and grow from your mistakes, and that is important. Because you will make mistakes. We all do. We are human. But is if you let those mistakes just happen and take over, and you're unable to refocus and catch yourself again. You have to be able to learn from and also grow through those mistakes that you make. And when you, in life and in general, and in life in general, sorry, and in leadership, self-awareness helps you to have a clearer purpose and direction. Because you know exactly who you are, what you want to be, that kind of thing. You find that you have a clearer path. You have a clearer vision and a clearer purpose and direction of where you want to go. Of course, you have a better understanding of what you want and what you need. It helps you to boost your productivity and success. Enhances your ability to make positive change. Helps you to manage your emotions. Increases your self-esteem. And also helps you with relationships, friendships, partnerships, all of those things. So, to summarize, being your authentic self means having a keen awareness of who you are and what you stand for, and expressing yourself honestly and consistently. Authenticity and basically being your authentic self and an authentic leader is a continual process of building self-awareness. It is a journey where you acknowledge both your strengths and limitations, a journey that will lead you to find your purpose. So my final words to you young people here this evening: take the journey one step at a time. As I said, self-awareness is not something that is very easy. It is very hard for us to look at ourselves objectively. So take the journey one step at a time. Self-awareness takes time and practice to develop. Surround yourself with people, positive people, people who add some value to your life. Make meaningful connections with these people so that you're able to engage and learn from them. But in the long run, although it's a journey and although it's hard, this journey can help you to strive and flourish and bloom and blossom as the best leader that you can be. And help you to, just have a better future and a better outlook and a better, clearer vision of where you want to go and where you want to take your group or where you want to take your leadership. What next phase of your life will that go into? So again, for you to be an authentic leader, a leader who is real and genuine and all of that nice stuff that we would have talked about before, you have to be aware of who you are. Look at yourself. And I like people to look in the mirror and talk to themselves. I like people to write things down. Do an assessment of yourself. And you could also ask others that are close to you, what do you see in me? What do you see as some of my strengths? What do you see as some of my limitations? So it's an internal and an external process. And I encourage all of you to do that so that you can be your best and most authentic self. And that's it for me. See, I wasn't long.
Ms. Wallace, I think you did a very good job bringing this show down this evening on a note of introspection. Imagine that. That was a very good presentation. Sorry. So we thank all the 5 panelists for their presentations. Give them one more round of applause, please. Each presentation truly brought out the essence of the different qualities that we were focusing on this evening, and I'm grateful for that. Now, this is the part of the show where you get to ask any questions, make any comments. It's a small window, so use it wisely, use it carefully. Don't be afraid and don't all go at once. Anyone? Okay. Sorry, we'll get the mic for you. evening.
I think everybody would agree that it was an awesome panel. So I have several questions.
Oh, wow.
Top dog first.
Top dog.
So, in your dialogue, you spoke about self-awareness, and a big part of that is self-confidence. What I've identified in speaking to a lot of young persons is because of trauma, maybe they are bringing, maybe the environments that they come from, that breaks down the self-confidence, and they don't have a clear indication of where they want to go, right? So they're stunted by that. So how do we address that? First question. To the Queen, you spoke about financial management, financial literacy. What are the plans? Because the implementation of those types of programs in schools need expertise. So what are your plans in terms of offering your services on the school level to get that momentum so that we can move forward? Miss Gray, you're making a little bit of money now.
What?
But what I've identified is there are a lot of persons who are, again, limited by their environments, right? So your circumstances restrict your ability to see a horizon. You can't project yourself forward. You can't see what's available for you, what you can achieve as an individual. So you might have come from a certain background and had aspirations to become a lawyer. But I see a lot of persons that have potential, but mommy is a person that works in a supermarket bagging, and my dad works construction. So I don't have many examples to aspire towards. How do we create systems to move those types of persons forward, persons who might have potential but don't have any avenues to pursue it, or they just can't see themselves in those positions? And lastly, to the AG. Good evening, sir. So you spoke about integrity in public life, and that was interesting to me. One of the questions that I have for you is, so we understand what the policies and the litigation, it gives us teeth now to attack persons who break the law, moving forward, right? You are looking at situations that might have occurred in the past. What, if any, measures are there? What can happen to persons who would have used their position, their authority, to defraud the government, to limit the ability for us to plan for the future, and for the young persons here to acquire, because persons who would have been in positions would have taken everything that they could based on greed? What are the ramifications for those actions that would have happened in the past?
Any more questions? That was.
Oh, Lord have mercy. Okay, so that was a lot of questions. Thank you for that. Like you came ready for us this evening. Okay, so as you know, as I would have said in my presentation, there's a lot of things that affect, you know, how aware we are and our confidence in our own abilities. So our environment and our upbringing, and as you rightfully mentioned, trauma. Now, a lot of persons in St. Kitts experience some form of trauma, and a lot of us are not aware of it. That is true, and even they themselves often repress this trauma. So sometimes they don't even recognize that what they went through was something traumatic, and that is where all of us as a society comes in to, you know, try to help and be that guiding force for these persons, and come up with initiatives to help to build their self-confidence. Like I looked over and I saw Winnie LD, and she came to mind because I'm like, groups like Girls Illuminated and those kind of organizations, SKNYPA and those kind of things can do wonders for young people to help them to build their confidence, because they, again, learn from persons, you know, they learn from persons who, exude that same that same sort of confidence that they themselves, would like to display. So that's where we come in as a society to, provide these opportunities to help build self-confidence, but of course they have to be aware and have to, to have that awareness that I need help in this area, because we need to have a group every year. But if, you're not aware that, this is something that I can benefit from and something that can help me, or you don't have those persons, that external factor where persons can say to you, hey, you need some help in this area, you're struggling in this area, maybe you should do this. So it's for us to really guide them to those initiatives, and also to come up with other initiatives and other ways in which we can help our young people build that confidence.
So thanks for that question. So first I'll touch on what I've been doing to increase financial literacy here in our federation. I've been doing webinars, seminars. During my reign, I've done dance on a budget with different dance groups. Also speaking engagements like this, but my goal is really to hopefully work with the Ministry of Education to see where we could collaborate to either implement it within the school system, or just create like an exiting course or something so that they can benefit from, and so they can go into the working world and really prepare them for adulthood. I have spoken about working it within the math curriculum. I think that would probably be one of the easiest ways versus just creating an entirely new course based on, all the subjects that they already have to like undertake. But thus far, that's what I've been doing, and hopefully I'll be able to do some consulting in the future.
Now, as it relates to my way of making sure that persons who may have that potential, but it's not being brought out, there are a number of things that I can do on my own. However, it would always need the assistance of other groups such as this, schools, where persons can be educated in terms of ways in which they can bring out their true self. They can be able to show that even though they may come from humble beginnings, they would not let those circumstances define them. Now, sometimes some persons are very proud. They don't want to really express the challenges that they are experiencing. Sometimes you may get that from children or other family members. But I think programs need to be put in place, not just by government, but also by individuals, NGOs, to basically give person a support system so that they can help to develop any area or any skill or talent that they may have, and even guide them through a process. So even if they don't want to be a lawyer, they may want to be an accountant or whatever it is, have that support mechanism so persons can know what to do, how to even fill out an application form, or just somebody to help them do a business plan, so that when they are ready to tap into their true potential, they already have the knowledge and information. And I make myself available, not just for the community that I live in, but for the entire St. Kitts Nevis, because once we have a better people, whether it is based on education, job opportunities, opportunities to study overseas, our nation it will grow in leaps and bounds, and persons will look to St. Kitts and Nevis as the best place to be. And so I offer myself wherever I can, and I will do what I can, visit schools, make my good HE, bring me somewhere if he wants. I'm just joking, he don't want me by him. He had enough of me, and that's why he went away. But I think education is key. Once we educate people, they would be more aware in terms of how they can bring out their true self, and I will do my part to educate.
What measures are there for persons who use their position in government to benefit themselves personally, and what are the ramifications? Well, first of all, let me explain. Decisions to prosecute for crimes under our Constitution is solely within the purview of the Director of Public Prosecutions. Governments can't decide whether to prosecute previous governments. For minor infractions, we can take persons before the Public Service Commission so that with the evidence that we have, and they could potentially be removed from the public service. Today, well, after yesterday and some things that I discovered, I might be publicly embarrassing some people, which might actually be worse than going to prison. I'm contemplating whether I should do that, and I'm minded more so about 70-30 to embarrass some people who might not have been corrupt, but were, I don't want to use the word I used earlier, but not very friendly towards our treasury, and I'm not going to tolerate that, and I'm going to embarrass some people. Also, we are considering appointing a special prosecutor that can engage auditors, independent auditors, to investigate some of the statutory corporations, and then that special prosecutor can then prepare reports to present to the DPP, who will then decide whether to prosecute or not. I think it's time we need to draw a line in the sand, and we need to make sure that we have a better country moving forward. I'm not afraid of anybody, and I'm saying that straight up. I'm not scared of anybody. I was hired to do a job, and I'm going to do that job. So some people should be shaking in their boots right now.
I think we have leaders of integrity here, so nobody is shaking in the boots. But we'll invite the Vice President of the St. Kitts National. Oh, we have one question. We'll squeeze you in.
All right, good night. I have a question as it relates to young people and success. Now, Franz, I feel like you were extremely cautious in your presentation because as much as we speak about success, success comes at a huge personal sacrifice to the persons who have accomplished it. And we're now in an era where we are touting young people time now. And I'm looking at young people time now with so much cautious optimism because we are not very friendly to young people. I think about it as the game of whack-a-mole. Like every time it comes up, you get the bat, and it hits, you hit down the whatever pops up in the game. Now, what we need to explain to the young people, I'm asking for tidbits, especially as we think about change theory and how difficult it might be to be able to implement any sort of change and having to get the buy-in of individuals. I know that when you would have started your events, funds, that you might not have had the type of support that was necessary at that point in time. But you have now been able to accomplish a particular level of success. But in between there were failures. And those failures really allowed you to build that character. So walk us through. I would like for you to respond, because I think sometimes we glamorize success and we glamorize what it means to be a leader, and we don't recognize the type of difficulty and strain as well that it can have on your mental health. So Nadia, I want you to respond to that. The mental health, I want funds to respond to getting the buy-in. And Mr. AG, I like the teeth that you speak with, right? And I listen to all of what you want to do. But you too, as well as a young person, you are in a space that sometimes is not going to be very encouraging to that sort of vigor. All right? So when you have persons who are very ambitious and they want to ignite change, you're told how enough you are and how many things you like to be in, and they're glad that you failed, they're right there, good work, because we don't exist in a space that encourages that. So I would like to have a response from Mr. AG, Font, and Nadia, especially about the mental health and the personal sacrifices that come with success and breaking barriers.
Okay, so it is indeed very hard for young people to strive and, get out there because I'm sure for fans, they probably like, oh, where he going with all these events? What else he want to do? Like he want to make all the money? I'm sure, right? Okay, right. So it's very hard, for young people indeed. And, when it's not encouraging, it can really take a toll on your mental health because you start to question yourself. You start to question your capabilities. Am I good at this? Am I really able to do this? So it really does take a toll indeed. And I was saying a while ago, I really like Garth because Garth, just from what you hear from him speak, you realize how excellent he is at protecting his peace. You recognize that. I think Franz would have said it in his presentation. He said to himself, he said that he knows who he is. He's at the age now where he knows who he is, and nothing can bother him. And that is a process. Not all of us can get to that point. We can be bothered. We will be bothered. We are human. Things are gonna come at us, and we are human. We are going to feel it. I'm sure when Fan started out, he felt it. I'm sure maybe, I don't know if he had such full confidence in himself, but I'm sure there were moments when he questioned himself, right? So, we really have to protect our peace, protect our mental health, and, talk to people. Because as a society, we tend to keep things in. We have all of these struggles. We have people coming at us, and we're not speaking, and we're not opening up, and then we're not seeking the help. So talking to others, having that escape and having persons to vent to and to talk to is critically important, in these sort of roles. And, I said to Gath, you're going to need some counseling very soon, very soon, based on, the demands of his job. And, one thing I said to him, you always have to remember to take care of yourself. You have to add a little self-care in between. You cannot be going all the time, meeting all these challenges all the time and not pausing for a moment and reflecting and taking some time for yourself. And that does not just mean going to the spa and, those kind of things, because sometimes when we think of self-care, we think of money and spending and going on trips. But it could be something as simple as taking a walk and maintaining your exercise routine and, doing those things that make you feel good. So it's important, when you're experiencing these challenges again, to reach out to persons, to talk to persons, to try your very best to protect your peace, because it's a long road. Success is a journey. You're going to have ups and downs, and you're going to have people coming at you left, right, and center, right? So, it's about, building up that confidence within yourself. And when you do question yourself, tell yourself that you are capable. You got to this point because you are capable. You are able to do these things, and, hopefully that will help.
I appreciate the question that you asked. And my fellow panelists to the left of me, one of the things that you said just now that is very important, that I feel like is often ignored in our society, is counseling and awareness, mental health. I felt like the entire country was extremely stressed during COVID, and this is something that was overlooked, and it has ultimately affected the way that we behave today as a society. People are lashing out, people are expressing themselves, people no longer care about what they say and who they say it to and how they say it. But to answer your question, the reality is I'm often the center of scrutiny, just based on the fact that the rise of our brand has placed so many eyes on it that anything we do, people would usually talk about it. A blogger would pick it up. I mean, other other people would do the same thing that we did, and ours would be amplified. I'll be lying if I say that it doesn't make you sit down sometimes and question certain things. And I think this is where being innovative comes into play, and finding a way to just prove to people that you could be the total opposite of what they expect. And the reality is, you have to really learn how to condition your mind and yourself and focus on the overall objective and just be able to succeed in the end. I've gone through so many emotions and emotions. Sometimes I feel like people put me, it's so funny you mentioned it about making all the money. I had to break down to somebody just recently, doing an event a quarter is nothing compared to any other business that opens every single day and collect $250,000 in sales. But the reality is, it's sad, but I'll say it, we tend to pay more homage and show more respect to people that are overseas, celebrities. You know, a local artist could do a music video and he got some money in it. People gonna call him boasting, they're gonna look at him a certain way. But we favorite rap artists and dancehall artists could wear the biggest chains and floss the most money. And nobody has a problem with it. Forget about the artist, the young MUA, the hairdresser, whatever it is. You know, she's been doing her business for a while and then suddenly she purchases a car brand new and she starts to lose customers just because she was able to elevate herself. It is a stigma in our society that, you know, sometimes when I respond to certain things, my intention really is to try to change the mindset. I'm a very, like, I won't say headstrong individual, but I feel like my mind is powerful and I could help to transcend change in the environment in which I am and even the people around me. Not everyone is going to agree and not everyone is going to support you, and that's just something that you have to deal with. But at the end of the day, as long as you remain fixated on the ultimate goal of whatever your objective is, then you would be able to hit the mark of success. In terms of how I was able to get people to buy in, I'll give you a little story. When I initially started out doing events, I used to send out sponsorship letters to every corporate entity, and I hardly used to get any response. And one time I sent one to Hosford's. I remember sending a message to Wallace Wilkin DM and saying like, yo, well, you never sponsor me. And he actually messaged me back and we ended up in a discussion and he said, Franz, you just need to grow your brand. Once you grow your brand to a level where people see your value, you don't even need to come to me. I'm going to come to you. And that eventually happened. We sat down in an office and instead of them telling me how much money they wanted to give me as a sponsor, I told them exactly how much I wanted. And I was willing to walk away from the table because at that time I'd already built my brand to a level where if the sponsors wasn't there, then I was able to afford it on my own. And that's just a show of resilience more than anything else. And I want to say to anybody that is doubting themselves and not believing in themselves, you really just need to find ways and speak to people. One of the things that I find that younger people have overlooked is the power of networking and having a good connection with people in all types of places. Like, this is one of my lawyers right here. Garth I've interacted with. I mean, just sitting here amongst every single person is a proud moment for me, from Nikira straight up to Garth and even to all the young people. And the reality is we could take influence from people all around us and use that as motivation for ourselves and inspiration to go to any lengths that we really want to go to. So ultimately, I just feel like, you know, getting people to buy in would mean that you need to find a way to let them see your value one way or the other.
The simple answer to your question is sometimes you have to be the change you want to see. And for the persons who don't have the same goal or objective as you shed those persons and you move forward as a leader with the persons who have the same dream and same goal that you do, and you move forward to that goal.
Thank you for those brilliant responses. I hope all the questions were answered. You have a comment?
Good evening to everybody. Excellent panel, excellent panel. I
I just wanted to give some comments and actually to commend SKNYPA for this youth forum that they put together. I think you did an excellent job, especially with the diversity of the panel. When I saw the post, I was like, ooh, I didn't know what to make of this. And I think just in terms of how you pulled it together with the different themes, if it's one thing that I want to say to the young people today is, to at least remember, if you don't remember everything, because there was a lot shared and a lot of information. And, even though you weren't very interactive, I want to encourage you, it's time to be thinking about and becoming a lot more self-aware of who you are, because that is important. The earlier you start with that, the better it is. And the better it is for you to be thinking about what integrity means, the better it is for you to start practicing perseverance and just doing it anyway. You might get fight down, it's very likely. But I want to encourage you to just do it anyway. Remember the gems of wisdom, because these are people who have experienced all of the things that you'll potentially experience as you grow and as you encounter life's challenges and life's successes. So I want to encourage you to remember all of those things. And of course, as you go through integrity, it's very, very important. And that's one of the things that I really respect about Gath. So I never met Gath until swearing in day. I sat down next to him and we had a mini conversation, and my spirit just took him. And from working with him in 6 weeks, Gath is one of the kind of people who believes in the law, and he's very big on the law. And I think as you go up and go older and try to determine who you are, it's important to have that sense of self and that sense of moral grounding. That there is always something that should be bigger than us. It's something that should be kind of a determination of principle. And that is very important as you grow up and as you become leaders. And so I want you to always think about what integrity means and how you grow into that, into your own self-awareness in order to become innovative and in order to persevere in whatever it is you put your mind to. So I want to thank SKNYPA again so much. I really appreciate all. And so these are some forums that I really would hope that we can have more of in terms of being able to engage young people. And even if you're not ready to engage, I am confident that, the time will come when we have these forums and we're hearing a lot more from you than we're hearing from the panelists. That's my hope. And I want to thank the people who asked questions. Much appreciation for this young man. Thanks, Alonzo. Yes, so I always like to see young men who are out here doing positive things, like Mr. Fonchwaden here. Because if we look around this room, we see it's more females than it is males. And I really believe that when we have young men like, Alonzo and Atiba, I'm supposed to be on their show, by the way. I'm going to be on their show October 2nd. Yes. So listen out, because they have a show where they really talk about issues, they talk about self-awareness, they talk about trauma, and to hear that from young men in our society is different. So the change is happening, and there is space for us to make the change. So let's, pull up our pants and our panties and, let's go out and actually be the change, as we've heard. And of course, it's inevitable for us to get fight back, but let's just do it anyway, because I believe that is what Natasha Gray told us in terms of just what perseverance means. So thank you all very much for this forum, and thank you for coming.
Thank you very much, Iseline. Honorable, sorry. And as one of the members in the audience mentioned to me that, today we're going to be young people, and tomorrow we're going to be telling, not tomorrow literally, but tomorrow we're going to be telling other young persons the same thing that they're now telling us. And so we truly want you guys to relish in the moment and understand the level of information that was shared here and put it into use. So I won't speak anymore, but I'll invite my co-chair, Mr. Malachi Ferguson, to do the closing remarks and vote of thanks. Let's invite him.
Good evening, all. I don't know where to start, honestly. Right? I feel like I was at church. This is the first time I've been at church where the pastors preach and the audience preach back. Right? But firstly, I would like to start by giving thanks to the Almighty God for bringing SKNYPA to the end of another successful youth forum. Secondly, I would like to thank the panelists who jumped at the opportunity to be a part of this initiative. I think everyone can agree that this discussion was in fact thought-provoking and gave a realistic insight on some of the attributes of a great leader. to the specially invited guests, the Senator, the Honorable Iseline Philip, Junior Minister of Youth, et al., who is an alumni of SKNYPA, Mr. Pierre Liebert, Department of Youth Director, and Ms. Candice Franklin, who is also a former member of SKNYPA and the Managing Director of Events Extraordinaire, and the sponsor for our decorations you see around the room this evening. We thank you for being here and hope that this leadership symposium will create avenues in future for SKNYPA to partner with you all in your respective areas to continue fulfilling our youth mandate. I'd also like to thank all the schools and various youth groups in attendance for sending representatives, as initiatives like these are some of the ways we at SKNYPA find would be instrumental in the development of the future leaders of our great federation. To the Brotherhood Drummers, Events Extraordinaire, the Department of Youth St. Kitts, and ZIZ, your continued sponsorship and collaboration on initiatives like these is greatly appreciated as we champion the cause of equality and justice in nation building. To the 21st Anniversary Committee, I thank you for the work you continue to do throughout our celebrations. Finally, I would like to thank everyone in attendance for coming and being a part of this informative discussion. And before I leave, permit me to just say a little something for you to go away with. Stop small up yourself to make people comfortable. Take up space. Enjoy the rest of your evening, guys, and please indulge in refreshments afterwards. Thanks for coming, and we hope to see you soon. Thank you.